That's new.
Yeah, we're fancy around here. Look at these new cameras.
I know.
We're back. It's officially the 2024-25 wrestling season. Reaction Time, sponsored by Fareway. I'm Jacqueline Cordova, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ben Visser. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm glad you're back.
I'm glad to be back. You know, it's been a great summer, and it feels good to get back into the swing of things with wrestling. Mm-hmm. It's good to be back on the podcast. I can't believe this is our fourth season doing this, or fifth? I think it's the fourth. I think it's our fourth season. Super exciting to be back. Iowa State, Jackie and I were just talking about this before we started recording. Really exciting roster. Obviously, you lose a guy like David Carr, two-time national champion, four-time All-American, all the accolades. But top to bottom, I mean, and we'll get into this, really strong lineup. But before we get into that, shout out to Greg Mackey, day one listener.
Big fan.
Over the summer, for those that aren't aware, I got engaged, which is exciting. And my fiance works with Greg Mackey now. And shout out to Greg Mackey. I know he's going to be listening to this. He's been a day one listener since the first day. So that's exciting. But how's your summer?
I was going to say, casually going to tell us you have a fiance?
I know. Hey, I had a good summer.
Yeah, it was an exciting, chill summer. You know, we come off a really good end of wrestling season. It felt really good to hit the off season with how much we had going on to cover for all the programs. But I didn't get engaged. So, you know, I'm trying to think of what I even did this summer. It honestly kind of flew by. For me, at least. So,
yeah.
But always love the off season.
It's great.
I love the chaos. Like, I'm ready for the overlap. But no, yeah, it was a good summer. Like you said, I'm really excited to be back. I love, obviously, wrestling. I've been saying it on Twitter. Wrestling is Christmas for me. So, as much fun as it's been, and it's going to continue to be, that football's doing so well, and the Big 12's just been so exciting to watch. It is very fun to be back in our element, which is wrestling. So nothing like returning to, what dressers say? It was like 80 some degrees in the wrestling room before we got
86 degrees.
There. Yeah. See, nothing like being back in that hot ass room.
I know. I don't know how they do it. They're better men than I, but the off season, I think we need to talk about it a little bit. A few exciting things happened this off season for Iowa State. So Iowa State ended last season at the NCAA championships fourth.
Yep.
And once you know it, it's the first year the NCAA decides not to award a team trophy to the fourth place team.
They're lacking money, apparently.
I saw Jason Bryant tweet something like, the fourth place trophies for all these things cost so much money, they decided not to do it. And it's like, isn't that just the most Iowa State thing ever?
Yes.
That they get fourth, and then you don't get a team trophy for it. Well, I think it was June, July, something like that. They get a package in the mail, and the NCAA decided to award a team trophy to the fourth place team. So Iowa State officially ended last season as a team trophy, or trophy team, which is very exciting for them. Obviously, it's a feather in the cap for the Dresser era. First team trophy since Cale Sanderson. So Cale Sanderson was a coach, not when he wrestled, when he was a coach for Iowa State. So that's super exciting. And then another really exciting development, Christian Carroll, number one rated recruit in the 2020, it must have been 2023 class, I think. He initially went to Oklahoma State for a year, but he decided to transfer, and he transferred to Iowa State. So Iowa State has got Cody Chittum, who's the number one rated recruit, and then they got Christian Carroll, who is the number one rated recruit in back-to-back classes. So when I mentioned that Iowa State has probably the most talented roster it's had in the Kevin Dresser era, those are two of the people that I'm looking at for, like, all right, Iowa State has some people, they got some dogs, and they're ready to go out there and get after it.
This offseason, and I think we can circle back to non-Iowa State related offseason things at the end, but I mean, what a summer for the transfer portal.
Yep.
That was insane. Evan Bachman,
another transfer.
You know, we watched him compete at Utah Valley, and where was it before? Cal Baptist?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's funny to think we've been watching him wrestle for quite some time, and now he's in Ames.
Now he's in Ames.
So, like you said, media day was on Wednesday or Tuesday. Gosh,
Yep, today's Wednesday.
I know. What a weird.
You're listening to this on a Thursday, probably,
or Friday,
or Friday.
Even.
I think it'll be Thursday.
Oh,
all right.
Okay, all right.
Happy Thursday, everybody.
So, yes, Iowa State held their annual media day on Tuesday afternoon, and we got to talk to the whole team, basically. When you walked out of it, tell me, what was your biggest takeaway?
So the biggest takeaway is the thing that I've mentioned is that this is the most talented team Iowa State has. You look up and down the lineup. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When you mentioned that this is a really exciting time for Iowa State athletics, it absolutely is. There's 3 teams ranked in the AP top 10. And I've been seeing a lot on Twitter that people are saying when the preseason wrestling rankings come out, Iowa State will also be top 10. And I've held myself back.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Because I'm like, I think people are going to be disappointed.
Yes.
I don't think Iowa State will be a top 10 team in the preseason. I absolutely, without a doubt, think they will by the end of the season. But there's a lot of new faces and a lot of unknowns on Iowa State's roster, partly because of the talent, that people aren't going to know how to rank them. So like Intermat has already come out with their rankings, and Iowa State is ranked something like 14. So that is 15, actually. I lied. They're ranked 15th by Intermat for the tournament rankings. So we'll see what the coaches poll says. But if Iowa State is not ranked in the top 10, you can be upset, and I think that's reasonable, but I wouldn't be too surprised by it.
Yeah.
Just because there are so many unknowns, and you do lose David Carr.
Yeah, I feel like when you look at wrestling, there's just so much more nuance to the rankings that unless you're like really into the sport and you're like heavily following it, it won't make sense. The overall team ranking was a little confusing to me just because I didn't understand enough about the other teams ahead of them to fully be like, okay, this makes sense because of so much roster movement in terms of there's no starting lineup. Like if you go and read Flow Wrestling's is it a preview or something? I don't even remember now. But they did this piece where they kind of talked about Iowa State's roster, and they had a lot of guys in different weights that some of them might not even actually wrestle at. So like you said, yes, Iowa State will be a top 10 team. Where they're going to be, we won't know yet. So I think, that definitely adds some confusion if you look at it as a more casual fan. But I would still look at all of Iowa State's teams as top 10 programs.
Yes. Yep.
Despite Intermat and Flow's rankings. So
Yeah. As for example, to prove your point, with Intermat specifically, they have Kyson Terakina ranked 16. Kyson Terakina, from what Coach Dresser said, is at 133 pounds this year, not 125. So we'll see who ends up at 125 for Iowa State. We'll see where they end up ranked.
I'll say I have those rankings or at least I thought I had them up somewhere. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Intermat has Kyson at 16, Evan Frost number 5, Anthony Echemendia number 7, Panero Johnson number 11, Connor Uten.
That's how Dresser was saying it.
We'll get into him. He's ranked number 26. MJ Gaitan number 10, Evan Bachman number 17, Christian Carroll 33. And Younger at number 6. So like those rankings are just so...
They're guesses, which is what all preseason rankings are. All preseason rankings are guesses. So.
And wrestlings are just a little harder.
Especially a guy like Christian Carroll.
Right, like a beast, a monster who will do some damage, but he was hurt last season.
He beat Ben Keeter when they were in high school. Ben Keeter, the Lord and Savior of Iowa wrestling. So we'll see where Christian Carroll ends up. I would imagine that he isn't the 33rd best wrestler at 197.
No way. There's no way.
So.
But going back to media days.
Yes.
When we look at what Dresser was saying, so there's tons of video right now for you guys to go watch at Cyclone Fanatic. We had 7 interviews with wrestlers, and then of course Kevin Dresser spoke with all of us. I think my favorite thing that he said was, a lot of talent over here, the most talented team in my years at Virginia Tech and in the years at Iowa State, which is a pretty bold statement.
His Virginia Tech teams were really good by the end there.
Yes. And then you're coming off of your best season yet, right? Like you just said to start, 4th place finish, a Big 12 title. David finished his career with a national championship. You have several All-Americans. So he wouldn't say it just to say it. Like, if Dresser's shown anything, he's a no BS guy.
Very much. I was just about to say that. Kevin Dresser doesn't lie about things like this.
Yeah.
He's telling the truth.
Yeah. So I think that says a lot about what's in the room. I feel like when we look at rankings, we can't even think about rankings right now. I don't think I'm even going to take them. I'm going to take them with a grain of salt.
100%.
For probably till January, to be completely honest, just because number one, the biggest question walking into yesterday was, what's the lineup going to be? Well, Dresser made it very clear that we're probably not going to know until maybe January, maybe. And so we have no idea who's starting. So you're probably going to see a lot of different lineups from what the lineup's going to look in March, which we kind of had that last season a little bit. There were some areas we weren't 100% sure what they were doing, but truly top to bottom, there's besides Younger's obviously 99.8% the starter at heavyweight.
Yes. Yep.
So, and that's the only one I feel confident about.
Yep. I would feel confident about Evan Frost as well. Even though Kyson is bumping up, I think Evan Frost is going to be the guy there. But besides that, there's competition at every weight. Even Evan Bachman, who you bring in from Utah Valley. You have Tate Noctiborn, who was one of the top-rated recruits in his class, too, who redshirted last year. And he's expected to do great things for Iowa State as well.
Yeah.
He's going to challenge Evan Bachman, I'm sure. Evan will probably be the guy. If I was given odds on it, I'd say 70-30.
Yeah.
But there is that 30% chance, and that's a real chance that Tate goes out there and it's no, this is my spot. I came here for a reason too. So I think it's really exciting. When Dresser first got here, we also didn't know the lineup. We didn't know what it was going to be, but it's a very different feel. You think back to 125, his first year.
Yeah.
You have 2 injuries, and suddenly you're going on campus trying to find a small guy who wrestled in high school and asking him to join the wrestling team in St. John Briggs.
So you want to know something funny is watching Iowa State football go through the injuries at linebacker and how everyone's starting to make the jokes oh, let's have open practice. Who can be a linebacker? It makes me think of Dresser dealing with injuries at 125 when he made the joke about St. John, how they found it at a 7-Eleven, which looking back now, I'm so curious why he said 7-Eleven when there's no 7-Eleven.
No 7-Elevens in Ames. Yeah. It must have been a Virginia thing.
So I think we've seen this before, at least in our situation. But I thought about that the other day. So I think it's funny you bring up St. John.
But yeah, so we don't know the lineup then, but it was a disaster.
Yeah, it was scary. It was who's gonna be the guy?
Yeah. And now it's who's gonna be the guy? You got this guy who's an All-American in Casey Swiderski. You got Big 12 champion Panero Johnson coming back. You have Cody Chittum, who has All-American potential. You have Jacob Frost, Evan Frost's twin brother, who could challenge for a spot. You got all these guys at these middleweights from 141 to 157. It's how do you find room for all of them? And then you go back to the internet rankings. MJ Gaitan is ranked whatever at 174. He's dropped down to 165.
Yeah.
So he'll be challenging Connor Uten for that spot. So there's just so many unknowns, and it is really exciting just because there is talent at all of those weights.
Of those weights, who would be someone you definitely don't want to see not be in the lineup? If you can only pick one.
From 41 to 57, if I could pick one.
Yeah.
That's a really tough question. So my thought process, just so there's not dead air.
Okay.
My first initial gut instinct is Casey Swiderski. But if you listen to Coach Dresser in the offseason, he's saying that Casey's going to redshirt. When we listened to him yesterday, which is Tuesday, he says, all hands on deck, Casey will be wrestling for a spot. So what happened there? I'm guessing in the offseason, Casey probably agreed to the red shirt, like, fine, I can do it if it helps the team. I'm also guessing a competitive itch came back. It's like, no, I want to compete for a spot.
Probably.
I do not know that. That's just my guess. So we both became pretty big Casey Swiderski fans last year, just in the personal growth and maturity growth that he made throughout the year and throughout last offseason. Like, he became one of the team leaders, and Dresser even said that yesterday. Like, we have a really young team. Younger Bastida has turned himself into a good leader. I think he said Echemendia as well, but also for a young guy, Casey Swiderski has taken on a pretty big leadership role. And we saw that last year during several press conferences and things like that. Even with Anthony Echemendia last year at the press conference, there's a really cool moment between those two last year where they obviously got in not quite a fight, but almost a fight at last year's wrestle-offs.
Throw back to that.
Yeah, and they buried the hatchet, and Casey, he talked with contriteness and all of these things that like a real maturity about him. So like Casey is one guy that I just like to watch wrestle, and I think he is one of the team leaders, and that it's hard not to have a team leader in your starting lineup.
Right.
Another one is Panero Johnson, just because of all the nonsense that he had to go through. You feel really bad for the guy. It's the gambling thing has proven to be kind of a crock.
Yeah.
So that whole thing was just nonsense. So you feel really bad for him. So you want to see him
come back
and tear people's heads off, which you know he can. He won a Big 12 championship. And then he's even said he didn't have the NCAAs he wanted. And then suddenly wrestling was taken away from him. Yeah. So like already on a downer. And then this thing comes out. It's like, well, shoot, the thing that I love is gone. I didn't end on the note that I wanted to. So for Panero to get this chance again, I want to see him have that chance.
Yeah.
So those would probably be the two. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure they're the two that are the exact same weight at 149. So maybe Casey's down at 41 with Anthony.
I'd say he made a comment about wrestling off against Anthony again.
Okay.
So
again, those two, I tell you what, because Anthony's another one that I want to see. He's an All-American. Like, why?
Yeah.
So I want to see all three. I want the NCAAs to come out with a 145-pound weight just for Iowa State so we can get all three of those guys in.
Write a letter. No, I agree. I definitely, when the rumbling started about Casey redshirting, I was not super pumped. Just because, like you said, I had so much fun watching him compete. He was so close, just so close to ending on a better note. And I want to see what he can do after tasting it even just a little bit. And then with all of the growth he's had. Yesterday or at Media Day, he said when he was asked, like, so are you redshirting? Like, what's the plan? He said, whatever that old man over there wants me to do is what I'm doing. So I think it's exciting that Dresser runs things the way he does, and that he opens up the season with so many wrestle-offs that he makes public. These are public wrestle-offs that you're all welcome to go to. They're at Lead Rec Center. And they're actually pretty, like,
entertaining. They
get really packed. You wouldn't, like, I feel like you wouldn't expect that. And they put on a good show. iWrestle shows up and helps put on the production. And so, yeah, you should all attend those. Especially this season, because like I said, I like that Dresser just opens it up and tells these guys, like, yes, we have talent. This is a very tough team, but we're going to throw everyone in and may the best man win. And I'm sure there's some more to I'm sure there's moments where he's like, okay, this is going to be a better move, or maybe this will be a better one. But I think it's, as I already stated, this is a really good problem to have, but it's also an unfortunate one because I want to see all of them compete. Like, just the thought of not having Swiderski in the lineup, I hate that.
Yeah.
Imagine Chittum not having a spot. I hate that.
Echemendia, like, he's a fan favorite wrestler. This is a guy that went out there, got takedown after takedown after takedown, really entertaining, really high level wrestler, and suddenly you might not be in the lineup.
Right, because there's just so much depth to the team. So, exciting time.
Yeah, it is very exciting. Thinking on it more, like, I still want Casey to wrestle, but this is Anthony's senior year.
It is.
So
this is his final season.
I think he gets a spot just now. If he turns out that he's not the guy, I'm sure Dress will make the change, but there is something to seniority and having it be a guy's last go around for that extra level of motivation. And Casey does have a red shirt that exists. Panero used his red shirt last year. That was one bright side of the gambling probe, is like, at first we thought he was just going to lose the year. The NCAA did grant him a red shirt year. I don't know why or how or the reasons behind it, but
yeah,
I appreciate them for doing that.
Thank you.
So like, I guess it makes sense to redshirt Casey, but man, you're redshirting an All-American.
Yeah. Tough problem to have. I'm sure Dresser has a lot of fun sitting down and looking at his lineup and trying to navigate who the heck's going to be starting on November 8th.
Yep. Against Stanford.
Yeah, I was going to say, Stanford's coming to town. What else did you learn at Media Day? Who was your favorite interview you did?
Christian Carroll. So like typically everyone on this who listens to this podcast know that I am a giant Younger Bastida fan. Yep. I still am. Last year's results at NCAAs did not dissuade me from being the leader of the Younger Bastida bandwagon. That's going to go strong this year. Don't worry. That said, Christian Carroll was my favorite interview yesterday. I had no idea what to expect from the guy in an interview. He's a freshman, a redshirt freshman. That I didn't like. I knew things about him, right? Like that he beat Ben Keeter. I knew that. I knew he was at Oklahoma State. I knew he was the number 1 rated recruit. These are the things that I knew about him going into it. He is, without a doubt, the best freshman interview I've ever done across any sport. He is incredibly well spoken. And he is also, at the same time, being well spoken. Sometimes you get well spoken people who are very media trained, and those people tend to be football and basketball players.
Yep.
So you get essentially nothing from them. Christian Carroll's not media trained because he's a wrestler. And so you get a very well-spoken person who is also more than willing to let his mind be known, to speak his mind. I found out a lot of cool things about him. One, he had a life-threatening heart condition.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised to hear that.
Yeah, he had 2 options. I think he was when he's a senior, junior in high school, either open heart surgery, or he had to go on a pretty extensive medicinal and like rest and eating and diet regimen. And he chose that when he didn't want to have open heart surgery. So he did that, and he got his heart back to whatever it was supposed to be. So that was interesting to find out. And you hear him talk. So he came from Oklahoma State with John Smith, who is no longer at Oklahoma State. You hear him talk about the culture there, and he's like, that culture wasn't the right fit for who I wanted to be the best version of. And I come to Iowa State, and like, when I came to Iowa State, this is going to give me the opportunity to be the best Christian Carroll I can be. The culture here is next level. And I think part of it is, because I asked him about this, he gets to wrestle Younger Bastida every day. And I'm assuming a lot of people that are listening to this have seen the picture of Christian Carroll when he committed, just totally yoked. Like, this man has muscles on his muscles. And just hearing how he goes back and forth with Younger every day, and how explosive and how many different techniques Younger can hit as such a big guy. He's like, Christian was like, I've grown so much just in being able to see that and feel that. And like, all right, if I can handle and survive this, I'll be all right against essentially everybody else. And right below him, you got Evan Bachman.
I was going to say, Evan's a very similar thing about how the culture was a really big contributing factor, and then just how he's already like seen himself change and learn so much just in the off season. So I can't imagine what he's going to learn about himself once they're in full throttle season mode. So, which says a lot about what Dresser and his staff are doing and have built at Iowa State, without being total homers about it. But like, it's coming straight from the wrestlers. I mean, again, he came from Oklahoma State, which huge program. I mean, John Smith himself, like, look at the program he built, the championships, the trophies they have in their trophy case. So I think it's a really, really big compliment, and says a lot about what is happening in that wrestling room for Christian Carroll to say that, which is huge. I mean, when I listened to that interview, because I wasn't part of it, when he said what was it? To be the best version of himself, it's in Ames or something like that. The interview's on Cycling Fanatic if you guys want to go watch it. But that's huge. And I think it says a lot about Iowa State and what they're doing, especially after losing someone like David Carr, when at the time it
oh yes, there it is.
Look at him. He's huge.
Absolutely yoked.
Like my gosh.
Traps, I think that's what they're called. Again, I don't know muscles. I'm super skinny, but like, that's unbelievable.
So it's funny because I'll just bring up the infamous Ben Durbin tweet. Yesterday in the forums, I asked our good pals to let me know what they wanted to see out of Media Day. And someone made a joke about, can anyone play linebacker? Well, Ben made the case for younger Bastida, of course.
Me,
and Christian
Ben.
Yes, our Ben.
Yep.
This Ben. About younger and Christian Carroll. Well, I thought this would be a good chance to ask Ben Durbin, like, hey, how fast can they sprint?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Ben Durbin comes loaded with receipts.
He knows.
He said younger is, there it is. That is he gave us a
long
lot
list.
more. He gave us a lot more than I thought he would, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Younger's is 245 pounds with an untrained 4.71 40-yard dash.
Mm-hmm.
He has a 32-inch vertical jump, 365 horizontal press, 225 vertical press, Atlas Stone, 300 pounds. I won't lie, I don't know what that is.
It's the big old cement rock.
Okay.
And you just lift it. Yep.
He squats 515. His grip strength. Did you look this up?
I did 1,005 newtons, roughly about 230 pounds of grip strength.
That's crazy. And his true force mid-thigh pull is 800 plus pounds.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So he can produce over 800 pounds of force.
Well, he also sent us Christian Carroll's information. He said he's 210 pounds. We'll have to come down.
Yep. Well, that's one good sweat away.
His horizontal press is 405 plus pounds. Vertical press is 225 plus pounds. And then he said infinity for Atlas Stone and squat.
And that's the thing I want to point out. His horizontal press and vertical press are more than younger Bastidas.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And last year, Ben Durbin was saying that he'd never seen anyone as physical as younger Bastida.
Yeah.
And now you have Christian Carroll, who is, as a freshman, outlifting younger Bastida.
That's crazy. That's insane. My deadlift is like 205.
Yep.
And my grip gives out like after one or two. So I just can't even imagine. And Younger looks so much bigger.
Yeah.
I was sitting with him one-on-one. We were sitting on the couch in the team, what would you call that? Like team lounge.
Yeah, lounge.
And when he sat down next to me, I was just like, his arms are ginormous. Like, my gosh. Again, a great problem to have. This is going to be awesome because everyone has become such a big fan of Younger because of his athleticism and just his strength. I mean, people are going to love Christian Carroll because he probably matches similar energy.
Yep. I asked Christian about his wrestling style because if you look at Christian's face, if you look at the video that Aiden took, he's got scars above both his eyebrows. He's got scars on his cheeks. Like his face is littered with scars. I was like, all right, I see the scars. What's your wrestling style like? He's like, I'm high intensity. I am athletic. He just straight up said he's athletic. He's like, I love wrestlers. No one else says that. No other athlete says they're athletic. Wrestlers will tell you how athletic they are, and I love it. I'm really athletic. I'm really explosive, and I'm going to go out there and score a lot of points. It's like, that sounds like younger Bastida. So that's when I asked about Younger. He's like, yeah, we have really good matchups because we are both so explosive. It's like, this could be so much fun.
Like, can they just wrestle off?
I'd be fine with that.
Not even for like a spot, just wrestle.
Just have fun. Yeah.
Just throw it
Show
out
us what
there.
a scrap looks like in the wrestling room.
Yeah. Can we come to practice?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, big guys always put on a good show.
And one thing I want to say about Christian Carroll, so sorry, that Kevin Dresser said is when Christian Carroll's feeling right, he is the best wrestler at 197 in the nation.
Okay.
And when Dresser said that, that is the thing that made me raise my eyebrows because like 197, you have AJ Ferrari.
I was saying, I just pulled it up. I already rolling my eyes.
Ferrari hasn't wrestled in a number of years.
Literally.
So we'll see what he is. He's obviously a very talented wrestler, but his head is unique. You have Stephen Buchanan from Iowa, who they just bought.
That just...
He was a former Wyoming and Oklahoma wrestler. He's very good, but we'll see. Then you have Jacob Cardenas, who Michigan bought. And then Rocky Elam, who Missouri has had. So there is an openness to that weight, I think. I mean, it depends what AJ Ferrari does and where his brain is at. But if he's not what he was as a freshman in terms of his wrestling ability, then I don't see why Christian Carroll can't. Because, I mean, like I said, Christian Carroll beat Ben Keeter when they were in high school.
Well, And honestly, I'm not saying AJ isn't talented. Obviously, he loves to post about himself on social media. There's probably 80 videos this month alone of him working out. But like, there's a difference. My stomach is growling. Oh my gosh. There is a difference in you're at the gym working out and then you're in live matches. When's the last time he was in a live match? Genuinely, I don't know.
So like collegiately, his genuine his last live match.
I forgot about the splits.
Well, so that wasn't technically a collegiate match.
Okay.
His last collegiate match was when he won a national championship as a freshman.
Okay.
That was at an open tournament. And yes, he did the splits and gave the double birds to the Hawkeye fans because he was wrestling. At that time, he was sort of committed to Iowa, kind of. Who knows what really happened there. But he beat the Iowa 197 pounder and he gave the double birds to the Iowa fans for some reason. So yeah, who knows what AJ Ferrari shows up. Again, super talented guy, obviously has national championship pedigree. But when you're...
But like outside of what we know from the past, I don't see why this weight isn't wide open for Christian Carroll to go in and cause chaos.
A little bit of mayhem.
Yeah. Which is what we like, right?
It is.
It's what we're looking for. Yeah, weird. I forgot AJ Ferrari's officially...
He's on a team. Currently, he's on a team. When this gets posted tomorrow, he might not be on a team. We'll see. But right now, he is.
Let's talk about the smaller guys. Evan Frost.
Yes.
My guy, Evan Frost, almost beat Dayton Fix. That's going to haunt me forever.
Another minute, and he would have had it.
I don't even want to talk about it because that call, whatever. Anyways, Evan Frost, currently the highest ranked wrestler per Intermat's preseason rankings. He's ranked 5th in the country. I talked to him yesterday. He is still very, short. Very, I would love to see more of his personality. Like, is he funny? Does he make jokes? Like what are him and Jacob like?
Yeah.
What are they like outside of that? But he did show a little more than he did last year. And I totally recommend going back and listening. I think it might be like 3 minutes long, maybe. He was just like, I love how technical he is. I can't remember what the question was, but he like gave some insight into some of the things he's been working on. And we talked about just how it felt to be a starter and be in it live and suddenly being a top guy and having a target on your back. And I think he's been so clutch. I think because his personality is the way it is, he's very quiet, kind of puts his head down, does the job, but he did it really freaking well.
Yep.
He left me so impressed. If they're away, my tweets tend to kind of fully lean into more of a fan. But when he was wrestling at nationals, I was full throttle fan.
Yep.
Like I wanted to jump from my balcony a little bit watching him be called for that. What did they call it? A stalemate.
Yeah.
It was a stalemate. He was so close to being Dayton Fix, and that is huge because Dayton Fix is Dayton Fix. So I'm really excited to see him. I would love to see him again have that 133 starting spot again because he's just so talented, and I like that his personality is kind of more even keeled, more leveled. We have such big personalities on this team that it's fun that you can start the duel, and when you get to 133, Evan Frost is just going to casually score like I don't even know, 1 million takedowns. It feels like.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's so quiet with him. Yeah. Like you start the match and you feel like not a lot's happening, and then suddenly by the third period, it's 15-2, and he's a takedown away from a tech fall. It's like, how did that happen? And yeah, I'm a huge fan of Evan Frost too, and I interviewed Pinero yesterday, and that's one thing he said about last year. Like the one thing I got is perspective sitting out all last year, and part of that perspective was like I watched Evan Frost gas 1,000 guys.
Yeah,
and like that's what Evan Frost did. He will not visually out athletic you. Like he's not like younger. He's not like a Christian Carroll. Right. He's not like MJ Gaitan where they're just stronger than you and they're going to do whatever they want. He just meticulously goes about his business in the quietest way you've ever seen. And it's like, oh yeah.
He just ruined your life and
Yeah.
you had to do a double take.
Like the poor guy he beat in the blood rounds last year. Like, it's like, oh yeah, he won. He earned All-American status because he won in sudden victory, and it seems super casual. It's like, okay, that's sure.
I just like we need to start asking the guy, what's Evan like?
I feel like we asked that last year, like David Carr and stuff. It's like, yeah, I can't tell them apart, Evan and Jacob. Like they go about their business, they hang out with themselves, they hang out with each other like two brothers, two twins. And I think they're engineers. I think they're both engineering majors. And it's just, they just quietly go about their business.
I was like looking at someone's social media post. Maybe it was Chittum, but someone was like playing chess. They're just hanging out playing chess.
Yeah. Have you heard about how good Younger is at chess?
No.
Younger's incredible at chess.
What?
Yes. So I don't remember how I found this out, but you remember you obviously went to Iowa State. We all did. You remember the guy who sat outside of Carver and played chess on the table?
Yes.
The guy with the big hat.
Yes. Yes. That guy. Apparently really good at chess. Essentially no one at Iowa State beats him with regularity. I was told that Younger beats him frequently.
Wow.
Yes. Younger's very good at chess.
Hidden talent.
I know.
Hidden talent.
So, but yes, I could see like Frost. It would not surprise me if he's a great chess
Being
player.
like really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just crazy. Well, so interesting. I think one of the most interesting things that I got out of talking to Evan is last season I asked all the guys I talked to who was like who's going to surprise us the most, who's flying under the radar. And for some reason, my brain only thought to ask Evan this. I don't know why I only asked Evan. But he said it was Uten. Is that how you say it? I'm going to say this every time. Uten?
Dresser's been saying Uten.
Uten.
Scootin' ootin'.
Scoot Newton. That's right.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
he's right. That's not a name we've really been saying much or seeing much in the off season. So I'm very curious to see what's the vibe there.
Yeah,
What are we going to see?
That's a great question. And
He's at 165
165. And
for
I
reference.
think I remember him wrestling David last year at last year's wrestle offs. And David, I'm pretty sure, beat him by tech fall. But it's one of those things like, wait, David beats most people by tech fall.
Right.
He looked like he had something there. Like he was competing with David for not the whole time, but a little bit. It's like, I always say he might have something with that. He was a freshman last year. So it's one of those things like, all right, he might develop into something. He's not going to develop into David Carr, but very few people are. So I remember him only from that last year. I think it's the only time I've seen him wrestle. But I left impressed. Like, it's not often you lose impressed by a tech fall. But with that one, I was like, all right, I always say might have something. Now he'll be wrestling off against MJ Gaitan, who boy, that guy, if he can maintain his weight at 165, I think he could do some damage at that weight because he was stronger than a lot of 74 pounders. And if he maintains that strength at 65 and is able to feel good at that weight, I think there's going to be a lot of guys at that weight who are not ready for what MJ is going to do to them.
Well, and this is non-wrestling related. Can we talk about what MJ Gaitan looks like? Because the last time we saw him, he had his bleached blonde hair. And then this season, his hair's back to his normal color with some like kind of like blonde highlights going on. I did not recognize him. I'm like 99% sure I took a picture of him and Swiderski on the sideline at football. I had no idea it was MJ. So yesterday there was a period where I think I stared at him a little too long when he was just sitting against the wall because for some reason he just looks really different to me. I don't know what it is, but he
does look different. That's fair.
Like you said, I do hope that if he's going to go at 165, he's able to maintain that weight, feel good at that weight, be as explosive as he was last season at that weight, because he's one of those guys who's also very entertaining to watch. And he's so expressive, and he's someone who's going to challenge me to have to move during the duel to take pictures because I never get good pictures of him because he immediately turns to the bench and just loses his mind over there. So I only get his back. But at 165, again, it's one of those weights where I think he could also go in and make some damage because Keegan O'Toole moved up.
Yep.
So it's Mitchell Messenbrink from Penn State at the top, who David beat for that national title. And then, of course, we have a bunch of other guys in the top 5, but I think he could go in there and make some noise.
I do too.
But were there any other big takeaways you had?
I don't think so.
I think it just seems like there's just a really good team in there.
Yep. I think there is. I think they're going to do, again, I don't think they're going to start. One thing we should mention, 174, just because MJ's moving down, who gets a spot at 174.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a guy like Aiden Riggins. If you aren't aware, Iowa bought a lot of wrestlers this offseason, and it upset at least, I think we counted 5. 5 of their then current wrestlers who were like, wait, we were the ones that were here and putting in the work. So they left, and I think 2 or 3 of them were starters. A lot of them went to South Dakota State. One of them, Aiden Riggins, went to Iowa State. He's a Waverly Shell Rock product. He's at 174. I would expect him to, at bare minimum, compete for 174. I would guess that he probably wins that weight. I'm not sure who else is up for that one. So I would probably at this point in my life expect Aiden Riggins to be the guy at 174. Assuming MJ stays down at 65. If MJ moves back up, then they're wrestling off, and who knows what happens there. But I'm excited to see a guy like Aiden Riggins, especially in the Cyhawk duel, just because I'm sure there's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, given what happened there. Like, Aiden Riggins was a starter for Iowa. He was one of the starters that left, and he was a good wrestler.
Yeah.
So I think it's exciting for Iowa State to get that one, and nothing wrong with a little extra chip on your shoulder. We see out the coaching staff with Dresser, Metcalf, and St. John. None of them necessarily left Iowa on great terms. So,
well, and the Cyhawk isn't that far away.
No,
it is a month away. As of today, when we are sitting and recording this, we are a month away from the Cyhawk duel, and I think it's going to be a little clunky. And I think since last year's was obviously a really big deal because of ESPN, and there was just a lot with it, I think this year, because of how different the lineup's going to look in Iowa City for not only Iowa State, because of all of, the movement they have. I mean, like you said, to put it frankly, yeah, the Brands bought a whole new team essentially. So they're bringing in some new faces we've seen in a lot of other places. So I feel like it's going to be such an interesting matchup because you don't have the usual, I don't even know what to call it, but guys that the Brands have been building for years.
Building and brainwashing.
We're not holding back today. So yeah, it'll be a good one. Like I said, November 8th, that's when the season officially starts, the dual season against Stanford. I unfortunately will not be there, but I will go back and watch when I get home from Kansas City. Will you be there?
I will be there. Yep.
Fantastic. I'm a little sad. I would like to see Stanford in person in a duel, but that's all right. A lot of other stuff going on, you can look ahead to November 15th. Iowa State will be hosting Navy. So a few duels. And then, like I said, Iowa City, November 23rd. And then we hit our fun little patch there, the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational. Will Younger defend his title?
Will Iowa State defend its title? They won the Cliff Keen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry. Didn't mean to bury that one.
That's all right.
And then they'll have their Humboldt duel against North Dakota State. Curious to see if there's any connection there or if it just works out.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it might just work out.
I think so too.
And then we have collegiate duels. I'm very excited for collegiate duels.
A lot of good meets.
They've been really fun. This year they'll go up against Lock Haven, North Carolina, Ohio State, in Nashville again. And then we'll be back in January. It's kind of crazy to me when I looked at the calendar because we're going to go from that. Well, I'll leave out the Humboldt duel just because not the same amount of people will go. But from November 15th until, January 24th, there's no wrestling in Ames.
Yeah, that's wild.
I hate it.
Yeah, that does suck a little bit.
But it'll be all right.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
There'll be plenty of wrestling to watch. It just won't be in Hilton for a while.
I am excited, though, because towards the end of the month in January, Oklahoma State comes to town. And we all know, talking about new team faces. rebuilding that thing.
Yep.
David Taylor took over the head coaching job from Coach John Smith, and he's added a lot of guys.
He sure has. He's another one that has bought a new lineup, which again, NIL, it's a real thing.
Yep, it's happening everywhere.
Yes, we'll see what David Taylor does, a guy with no coaching experience, but is obviously a very, very, very high-level wrestler, world champion.
Yep.
People are thinking he'll do great things, and he probably will, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But when you get rid of a legendary coach like John Smith, it's tough to follow those shoes, no matter how good you are and how good your pedigree is. So we'll see what he can do. But it would feel real good for Iowa State to hand him a loss in that one.
Yeah, I would really love that. My favorites, Arizona State, are coming to Ames. Unfortunately for them, it's probably going to be pretty cold.
Yep.
So buy winter coats. Buy winter coats for when you come. Or just get like really extra thick sweatshirts. And then of course, Northern Iowa's on the schedule. We'll see them February 16th. Speaking of Iowa's transfers, South Dakota State, Valentine's Day. They have what? Three or four former Iowa wrestlers. So it'll be a good season. The schedule has some fun ones in there. Iowa State for the offseason launched a beer.
Yeah, Blood Round.
Tried it last weekend.
Was it good?
Yeah, I actually, hot take. I like it more than Ames Lager.
That's great.
Nobody paid me to say that. I mean that. I truly and genuinely, I like the Blood Round beer more than I do the Ames Lager. So.
Nice.
Go
There you
buy
go. Another good option for Iowa State fans,
Yeah.
especially Iowa State wrestling fans.
Yeah, I hear it's in stores now. So it's gonna be a fun season. I'm really excited. A lot of really good stuff coming up. Excited to see who the heck are in their starting slots.
I know.
Dresser said that was it? Oh gosh, I might have to go back and double check this, but for Wrestle Offs, they're hosting a recruiting weekend coming up here in a few weeks, and they're going to have, if I have it correctly, he said there's going to be a Wrestle Off in the morning. They'll go to the game, and then they're going to have another Wrestle Off after. So these guys are going to be putting in work.
Yes, they will.
I had wrote it down somewhere, but now I don't. But
It was sometime in November, I think he said.
it's like coming up. They're going to have a host people.
It
And
lined up with the football weekend, so I think it's the Texas Tech weekend. I think it has to be. I don't think you'd wait
I
until
think it
November
is
16.
because they knew the game time.
Yeah.
So they know it's like
Yes.
10:30
right.
first round,
Yes,
2:30 game,
6:30.
6:30.
Yep. So a lot of question marks, but like we said, this is a really good time to have the question marks because it's a lot of really talented guys. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Iowa State to once again have to prove people wrong.
Yep.
You know?
Preseason
So,
rank 15 according to Intermat.
we love Intermat.
We do. Genuinely, they generally have the best rankings by the time the season rolls around.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts, like you said, really excited for this season. Very, very talented. Lot of young people. Like we said, Bastida and Etchemendy are essentially the two upperclassmen. Everyone else is a sophomore younger, which is wild.
I know. Crazy. Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. We are super pumped to be back and covering wrestling through the entire season. I'm not 100% sure if we'll record next week. We may not. Crazy, like it's overlap season. So a lot of craziness as we juggle all the sports, but we'll for sure be back to preview the start of the season ahead of November 8th duel. So follow us on Twitter. That's where we'll probably update most things. And then, yeah, we'll be back as soon as the season kicks off. I hate saying kicks off. It doesn't fit.
No, it doesn't.
We'll be
That's all
back when it starts. As always, thanks for listening, guys. And shout out to our sponsor, Fareway, huge Iowa State Cyclone supporters and have been huge supporters of Cyclone Fanatic and Ben and I for years. So shout out to them. Thanks for listening, guys.